Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Um, if you see this, thank you for tuning in. Um, Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. It's a weekday, so a lot of people might be at work, and it's a little later in the day, so people probably putting the kids to sleep, getting ready for the next work day. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So, reason I want to do this one is I think I'm gonna create a playlist of videos called Revert Reflections because I think a lot of self-reflection is really good because, and I'm going to be completely honest, if you're a revert, if you're especially a male revert, I think that it can be really hard to link up with people because, I don't know how it is for a female because, all the female reverts channels I've ever seen, to be honest, especially like female revert hijabis, it just seems like they hit the ground running and they maybe feel really welcome by the community and things like that and all that kinds of stuff. And, it's probably easy for them to find a husband and, things like that. Now, if anything, they have any grievances, a lot of it seems to be more related to how their family individually treats them, depending on what kind of community they come from when they revert. But, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all. I'm not dismissing any grievances whatsoever that they might have that I don't know about it because I may be ignorant to a lot of their issues. Because to be fairly honest, I've never made a female revert. Personally, I've never met a female revert. And actually, to be completely honest too, it's a lot of the times the way that things have been running. Maybe it's not putting myself in the right places, but a lot of the mass students, for instance, because according to tradition and most of the cultures, it's the men go off and pray and the women stay home. And they so the men get basically with them praying gets the whole family the benefits of prayer and stuff like that. I really haven't met any as far as practicing, like actual practicing sisters. I haven't met any. But I have met quite a few sisters that are from especially immigrant communities that don't practice whatsoever. Maybe they celebrate Eid and stuff like that. A lot of them, unfortunately, it's a touchy subject because a lot of them, they don't want to say they're atheist or anything like that, or that they disbelieve wholeheartedly. I think that there's a lot of pressure from them to fit in because especially if you're a female, in our culture, in Western culture, especially here in California, you're going to be bombarded with a lot of messages of what womanhood really is. And a lot of that has to be tied into vanity, beauty, what's it called? Gratification from others regarding your looks. Also, unfortunately, another thing too is I think that, regardless of what your faith tradition is, what a lot of the culture here is too, the secular tradition is promotes promiscuity, especially here in Cali. There's a lot of that hookup culture, the dating culture. I mean, you got people moving in with people outside of marriage. That's pretty common. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite because I did the same thing before I reverted to as well. Like I had a partner and a lot of my reasons I kind of did that were selfish. It wasn't like I was trying to settle down and start a family with this woman. I was down and out financially and going through a lot of stuff. And I was getting ready to transition to move to California. And I was going to school and I was just like, really stressed out. And I I was already seeing her for about a year or so. And the situation I was in, it was kind of hard to find people to live with. So I was like, might as well just move in with my late girlfriend, and, I still have a job and stuff like that. So it'd be better for me financially and help me less stressed out about school and things of that nature. But as far as, actually wanting to settle down and start a family with her, it was always in my head, at least a temporary thing. And I feel really bad about that situation now because that was really a selfish move for me or whatnot. But anyway, let me get back on the topic. So, as a male revert, it seems like to me it gets really kind of lonely. And I'm not going to ever say that I haven't been outreached by people in the community. It has. Unfortunately, I think that in my nature, I do, go out of the way, but I'm always worried about overstepping my bounds and This has happened online sometimes, where I feel I've had I'm not gonna mention this channel, but there was a channel that I used to frequent, and I didn't know that there were certain things or certain opinions that I had that might be considered offensive. And a lot of these opinions that were quote offensive had nothing to do with the dean at all. These had to do with secular topics, and things like that. And, you know, a lot of this stuff culturally, where I think that it's, you know, you're still learning about different cultures and what's acceptable and what's not, and approaches. And I think a lot of it may have been some of that, like cultural clashes or something like that, political, different political opinions and stuff like that. But I think a lot of it was just personality stuff. I think maybe there was some jealousy involved, where I really do think when I arrived on this guy's thing that I kind of took a lot of his shine on his channel. And I think that he made me feel some type of way. And I think what I really noticed was the final straw was when I promoted my channel, you know, and it seemed like maybe I kind of took away his shine, because I'm not saying that I'm most bright, outgoing personality or anything like that, but I definitely rub people off the wrong way throughout my entire life. I think that maybe it's just like maybe mentally I got something wrong with me, to where I create a lot of conflict with other people. I don't know, maybe I'm autistic, bipolar, or something like that. I'm not going to get into that right now. That's something for a separate video, but maybe that's the reason I rub people off the wrong way. So with Revert Reflections, I think about, so this is the title was, I believe, I should know the titles of my own things because, you know, I go off, but yeah, basically, why do believers suffer and evil thrives? And I think that regardless of what faith tradition you come from, I think if you're actually seriously and trying to practicing it, I think that hurts the most in your gut when you see the status of the world. And I think that actually is one of the reasons that people kind of just lose their way more than anything. It's not based upon theology of like, oh, I don't believe that, you know, and the supernatural or anything like that. I think the majority of it has to do with no matter what in the world you see on the front page that corruption thrives, evil thrives, and people that, especially people that actually have nothing to do with, I guess, a quote moral code that is in line with, you know, a faith tradition. It seems like these people they just thrive, they succeed, and you know, and I see it both on the left and the right. You know, I mean, on the right, you have these guys that are, quote, you know, they're Christian or whatever like that, or religious when it comes time to get votes and stuff like that. But if you actually look at these people's lives and what they do and the policies that they do, they're actually in complete contradiction with what they stand for. And these people get reelected again. These people amass lots amounts of wealth and things like that. And so that really affected me back in the day when I was a kid, when I was a Christian. It really hurt my heart when I was just like, bad people succeed. Like, why do innocent people suffer? Like, good, innocent people minding their own business. They go to work, they do their thing, they provide for their families and their kids. These people are the ones that are being murdered in the street. These people are the ones that suffer from economic decline. These are the people that, you know, go through a lot of mental anguish, abuse of all different kinds for people that they care and trust and things like that. And then it's like, it seems like all these evil people, these are the people that, you know, they get the best relationships, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and you know, these are all naffs, right? Like they get, you know, the guy that's the douchebag that's, you know, doing the wrong thing all the time. He gets the beautiful girl. He gets the nice car. He gets amounts of money through doing illegal activities or shady business practices. Or let's just say he is doing everything, quote unquote, by the book. And he's just smarter than you. He's smarter than you. He's better looking than you. You know, and sometimes actually a lot of times it's like these people that are in those positions, I notice a lot of time, well, at least for me, is like a lot of these people already come from wealth and privilege, right? And it's just like you have this resentment too. It's just like, oh, you know, why were they born with all this wealth and privilege? And then they don't do anything positive with their life. They don't, you know, they're not doing the right thing. And then they're just able to just glide by life and they don't have the same struggles for me. And things like that. And I'm trying to, you know, adhere to the decrees of my creator. You know, I think that gets a lot of people also really bitter. It's like, hey, I feel like a sucker, you know, I'm doing all these things. I'm giving this a cod. I'm giving the charity and stuff like that. But the people that succeed in life don't want anything to do with that. If anything, the only time they give to charity is just to make themselves look better, but they could give less of a damn. You know what I mean? And and then so also I noticed on the left side, where you have this mark of personal freedom, right? Personal freedom is paramount in our culture, right? So you see people too. It's like these people that have it all together. Like they're in and out of bed with random people constantly, or people they barely know, and they're having all the fun in the world doing that. And of course, we have our now. So like I'm just gonna be honest, as a guy, like what guy doesn't want to get in bed with beautiful woman with relatively ease? I mean, that's just logical, right? I mean, I think that's like 90% of men would probably agree with that, right? Maybe women would agree the same way, but I think that sometimes women, they do have that nature in them, but at the same time, they still want the gratification of having an emotional connection with somebody. So maybe they go through a phase like that where they feel like that, especially when they're young, but at the end of the day, they still want a guy that quote unquote cares about them and things like that. You know what I mean? But for a lot of guys, we could give less of a damn if you care about us. We just, we're just there we're in and out, and we want one thing, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's pretty obvious. But I think I feel really bad for our sisters, because it's just like, I think that's really hard on them. They're getting a deadly onslaught of that. Look at all the cultural icons, all the musicians, athletes, entertainers. We know very intimately about who they're dating and who they're sleeping with, and it's like, oh, this person makes millions of dollars doing this, and they're living their best life. Look at me. I'm just a girl that does the right thing. I've never been with a guy. I want to get a husband and do the right thing. And, I'm going to, school and, working full time, working my butt off. And, and it seems like sucks because everybody wants to feel important. But I think that, you kind of feel like what all this effort I'm putting into quote unquote doing the right thing, what am I getting? What rewards am I getting from that? Because, we like to think that there's a reward system for good behavior, right? And all too often we see that there's no reward for good behavior in our culture right now. I mean, literally, and, this is, something that I really think about too, for the sisters too, is look at the rise of pornography. I mean, there's girls literally ditching, going to school, working jobs, working in their careers and stuff to do this, because it is so enticing to do it. Why is it enticing? Maybe it's because they're not getting their love that they receive in real life, or the attention or the gratification that they want in real life from being the good girl, maybe also, unfortunately, and this is the type of subject, I'm going to keep it as PG as possible. Maybe that they're also not being physically satisfied as well, and they're like, hey, I want to get physically satisfied. I get paid for it on top of that. So why not? Why not, showcase this to the world? And it's kind of sad. And I think that what disgusts me, and this is going to be real talk as a man, what also disgusts me is men. We've allowed that culture to persist. And at the same time, we complain about it. I think there's a lot of guys that they don't complain about it until it affects them. They won't complain about the creation of hookup culture or pornography, excessive exposure to pornography. They won't complain about it until it doesn't work for them. And unfortunately, it's even sad to see married men or men that are in long-term committed relationships support that culture and then act like it's a good thing. Because as I can tell you this, for being a single guy, and a guy that's not single because he wants to be, I'm single because I'm just not maybe in a position right now of where I'm just attracting attention of somebody that is going to be a significant other, or maybe I'm just working on myself, whatever like that, right? It's very easy for them to just not think that's a big deal. And it's like, dude, you already have what you want. Like, you don't understand the struggle of like a single guy that actually wants to be in a decent relationship with somebody. And the fact that it's easier to take somebody to bed than it is to get into a committed, serious relationship with them. And not every guy, I think, in the long term just wants to just sleep around. You know, I mean, like it gets old. You know, it gets old. You know, and the effort that you put into it, comparatively to doing things that are actually positive and beneficial for your life, it gets old. You know, I get tired of. I mean, I think about how many books that I could have read, how many languages I could have learned, and things like that. To compare it to time that I spent looking at things that I should have been looking at, pursuing uh, gratifications through sexuality and things like that, or gratification from getting intoxicated, all those different things, right? And it, you know, we see is, and we're so individualistic that we don't see the bigger picture, and that we see ourselves as this progressive society, but we don't see that we're laying the foundations for our own destruction. Like people aren't starting families anymore. How is the human race going to survive if you're not starting families, especially in stable households? How's the human race going to survive if people don't want to actually be emotionally connected to anyone? Um, and they rather just have just hookups and you know, connections that are just very temporary, and people don't recognize that psychology behind that. That in the long run, some people, and I'm saying to everyone, but some people suffer from you know, serious mental issues as a result of you know, having frequent physical or interactions with somebody, and they just feel this emptiness inside of them. And we call that quote unquote slut shaming. Like, oh, they have that because of slut shaming. They don't realize that maybe that's just a natural thing that human beings have. Like, if that slut shaming is a thing, then why are there so many people that engage in those activities that will straight up admit, like, hey, I did all this, and it was, you know, afterwards, it was so hard for me to find a committed relationship with somebody actually that loves me and that I love. Or hey, like I physically can't have a connection with anybody because I've had so many partners. You know, it just doesn't feel the same to me. And I'm not going to try to keep anything, you know, anything graphic. And I know I want to make these channels as halal as possible, but I mean, I think eventually I'm gonna have to get to a point where I'm gonna have to talk about my own experiences and put it out there of, you know, hey, you know, the grass isn't always greener. And I think a lot of people, they just glamorize this hypersexual life as being fulfilling, and it may be temporarily. And there's some people that is like, hey, that's just, it is what it is. That's just what I want. But you know, it's not like that for everybody. So yeah, yeah, it really hard. It really hurts when you reflect on that, because it seems like to me, like the more halal I try to live, the more of an onslaught I get of, you know, basically temptations. And it really, really hurts because when I get fall victim to my temptations, I have this sense of shame. And some people don't have this sense of shame. Like if you look at it across the board, our culture is obsessed with deconstructing shame and people not being ashamed of anything, right? People not being ashamed of how much sex they have and their sexuality, people not being ashamed of, you know, how they look and things like that. But at the same time, you know, you shame people for the decisions that they make that are the opposite of that. Like I've been shamed for not wanting to have sex before marriage. I've been shamed for wanting a committed relationship with somebody before you be intimate with them. I've been shamed for being religious. I've been shamed for trying to dress more conservatively, you know, and I think it's really ironic that the same people that talk about shame, they shame people the same way. So it's just like, are you saying that shame is a bad thing? I want to, you know, from one, you know, paradigm, or is it just shame in general? Just the concept of shame that's a bad thing, because shame is not a bad thing. I don't care what anybody says. If you are, shame can sometimes prevent people from doing things, because what's the opposite of shame? There's not shame. With shame, there's pride, right? And then there's also guilt. So after somebody does something, they feel guilty about it, right? So shame is before, like, let's say somebody is like, hey, I'm a kleptomaniac. I like to steal. Stealing is fun. It makes me feel good. But shame, the culture of shame around stealing prevents me from doing it because it's wrong, and, you know, for various reasons and things like that. So me being ashamed of having these desires prevents me from doing it. Because even though it's something that I really want to do, I realize the repercussions and how people view me may be negative as a result of it. And then there's guilt. Like, say I steal from somebody that's hungry. I steal an apple from a kid that is hungry. For whatever reason, I just want to steal it, right? Because some people are kleptomaniacs. They just are addicted to stealing, right? I steal this. I feel this guilt because I took away literally like food out of the mouth of somebody that was hungry. I feel this guilt. So, you know, after I already do the act, it's already said and done. You know what I mean? Especially if I eat the apple, right? You know, the apple's not coming back unless, you know, I could, you know, get another one and give it to the kid or whatever like that. But the action's already done, right? So I feel guilty. And pride would be, oh, I'm just proud of whatever I do, right? Like, and I think pride is really a problematic concept because there's a lot of people that use pride to funnel egotistical desires. There's people that are prideful about negative things, you know, people that are prideful about, you know, and that's, you know, the pride's miscentered. And then pride also being related to tribalism or racism. Like, there's a lot of people that are just so proud of who they are. And I get it. But at the same time, your pride affects how you treat other people. You treat other people with disrespect. You treat other people like they're below you because you're, quote, prideful. And I think a lot of these videos need a lot more structure. I think maybe I need to start writing stuff out or whatever like that. I'm really analytical or whatever like that. And I like to get into my topics and really try to think about it from a base mindset, you know, to try to cover all the bases, because I think I see a lot of YouTube videos where people get in the comments and say, oh, you didn't cover this, you didn't cover that, you know, and I don't want people to come at me like that. I want people to understand that, you know, I'm going to get it right the first time. So yeah, man, like literally like earlier today, like I had a long moment where like I missed a bunch of salahs and things like that. And usually I'm on point. Like if I don't timely do my salahs, I mean, you know, I combine my prayers, or like if I know that I'm gonna get caught up, I'm just like, hey man, I know I'm tired. I may not want to stay up for Maghrib and Isa. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make all my salahs like right now. I'm just going to knock them out, you know, as soon as I can, just so I just have that monkey off my back, because I don't know. What's been weird lately is I actually have this concept of like I have a monkey on my back. Basically, when I miss salahs, like I feel this guilt and I feel like I'm not fully rested. I don't feel really truly peaceful unless I do that. And I think that's a good thing, because I wish I had that monkey on my back when it came to other things, you know, when it came to, you know, my alcoholism. I wish it came to, you know, when I was unfaithful, you know, to my partners, when I was, you know, doing stupid stuff, wilding, you know what I mean, breaking promises, all kinds of stuff, right? I wish I had that same kind of concept that would have prevented me and held me accountable. It just sucks that at this time of my life, it's like only after you burn so many bridges do you realize that, you know, you're holding yourself accountable. And if those bridges weren't burned, I don't think I would ever have done that. So yeah, like I said, like on all of my other previous videos, like this is something that I'm gonna expand upon when I get more professional setup. I think that in the future, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a new laptop, get some new gear, you know, fix my banners up, you know, and then, you know, upgrade basically to have, you know, intros and things like that. But also I think I need to do at this stage, I just need to network a lot more and build myself up. So, you know, I kind of get a bigger audience, because obviously, you know, I get a few views here and there. There are not even in the double digits, and I got like, you know, officially double digit subscribers, you know, alhamdulillah, but you know, I need to build myself up from there. So thank you for viewing this. If you viewed this, please comment, even if it's something negative, because I need to know, you know, how my performance is. You know what I mean? I'm really critical of my performances, and not say critical as in I'm down on myself, but I'm really like to always view how I can make myself better. So thank you so much for reviewing this. I wish you the very best. It's been a long, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care.